You're always going to be subject to fits of rage and envy and all the things that you wish that you would never have in your mind. So you've got to constantly be working to make sure that that never happens. The reason why we're lazy is because it's very difficult for us to waste resources on something that we don't currently do. And even though we know something to be true, that if you do this physical
long-term benefits,
we know that. But
right.
Short term, it's like, I don't want to do it right now. Imposter syndrome is often more prevalent in people who are legitimately talented. And for some strange reason, because when you're legitimately talented, one of the ways you become legitimately talented is to be ruthlessly self-critical.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like 9 for my top 10, top 10, 9. This one's for my top 10.
Need motivation?
Watch your top 10 with #BelieveNation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and this channel was created to help you overcome the #1 challenge that is holding you back, a lack of belief in yourself. You watch these videos because you know there's something more inside you too. You have Michael Jordan level talent at something. So get ready to resist your barriers, stop being lazy, and seek difficult tasks with Joe Rogan and my take on his top 10 rules to success to give you the confidence, motivation, and belief that you need. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule #1. Resist your barriers.
Everybody's got these stupid barriers they put in their own head. You got to resist those goddamn things because they don't do you any good, and they certainly define the potential for your future in a negative way that's not self-serving and it's not even real. This idea that there's no way to get past the starting block today is just ludicrous. It's crazy. And it's just this poor thinking. And people that are trapped in bad situations, one of the problems is you feel like this is your future. You feel like you're f***ed and you can't get out of that. There's no hope. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. There's no rainbow. And if you feel like that, that alone can be incredibly defining and limiting. But if you look at yourself objectively and say, okay, I kind of am f***ed here. I'm in credit card debt. I'm working in a job. I don't like what I'm doing, but I have some ideas. I need to feed those ideas. I need to feed them and water them, and I need to set aside a certain amount of time every day to just try to make those things happen. You can do that.
Rule #2, stop being lazy.
People are lazy, and the reason why we're lazy is because it's very difficult for us to waste resources on something that we don't currently do. And even though we know something to be true, that if you do this physical
long-term benefits,
we know that. But
right.
Short term, it's like, I don't want to do it right now,
right?
Because your body like craves relaxation because it used to be a very rare thing to achieve.
Rule #3, put your ego in check.
I was talking to a friend of mine about imposter syndrome. That
imposter syndrome?
Yeah, you know that feeling, you know, expression?
No.
It's you get it when people think that you're really good at something and you don't have a lot of self-worth, or you have this perception of yourself that you're not worthy.
Right.
You know, like maybe as an artist, that's a big one that you have it as an artist. Like I had it forever as a comedian, and I probably still have it a little bit, but less so than I used to, because I'm just more accomplished and more understanding of what it is, and the more engrossed in the process. And I know what it is now more than I did before.
Okay.
And you, like when I meet famous people, if they know who I am, I'd be like, oh my God, I got to get out of here. This person knows who I am. I'm tricking them.
Right.
It's a trick.
They don't know.
And they're like, hey man, I love your stuff. I'm like, no, you don't. You think you do. You don't. Trust me. Let me get away from you.
Right.
It's like this imposter thing. And then sometimes enough things happen where you go, you know what? I think I might be legit. Like, this is so crazy. Like, I thought I was an imposter forever, but I think I'm going to relax and just concentrate on the work and not worry about whether or not I'm an imposter anymore. And just concentrate on the work.
That ego's always there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always there, man. But the ego, it's interesting. Imposter syndrome is often more prevalent in people who are legitimately talented. And for some strange reason, because when you're legitimately talented, one of the ways you become legitimately talented is to be ruthlessly self-critical. Because that's how you get really good at something. And in ruthless like I remember Cat Williams was talking about himself once. And Cat Williams is a crazy person, but a brilliant comedian. And he said something that I've always thought. And he's like, I'm not a fan of me. And he goes like, I don't particularly like me. You know, it's like, that is why he's great. Because that makes you work so hard. Like, the worst thing a comedian can be in the beginning is sure of themselves and then incompetent at the same time. It's horrible. It's horrible because you're not good, but you think you're amazing. And then you understand, you don't know why the world doesn't think you're amazing because you think you're great, because you're delusional. You have this sort of artificial image of the world that you've put up, and in the world you are the center. You are the center, and you want everything to evolve around you. Imposter syndrome exists because your ego won't, like, your mind understands that your ego will f this up. If you let your ego say, "Oh, I'm the man," you're gonna ruin this whole thing. Like, you have to be aware of what this is. Like, this ride requires you to stay within a certain frequency. You have to stay inside that frequency. As soon as you start going, yeah, everything's awesome, it all goes away. All of it goes away. You have to stay inside that frequency, and that frequency is not a frequency where you're very pleased with yourself.
Rule number 4, have humility.
It's okay to be wrong. I made a mistake. I'm so sorry.
It's not just okay to be wrong, it's a gift. When you're wrong, it's a gift, because that humility that comes with being wrong is what really helps your education as a person.
Yes, agreed.
As a girlfriend, a boyfriend, a lover, a father, a son. You learn when you f up. You learn like, God damn, I was wrong. Like, that's a valuable lesson because it's a humiliating lesson.
Well, and you set yourself free too, because there's some, when you're hanging on to righteousness like this, like, you know, an ability to say that you were wrong. Yep. That is a burden.
It's not just a burden. It's a foolish pursuit. Like, you should relish every opportunity to apologize and say you're wrong as a showing of strength. Yeah. Because if you think you're strong, you think you're strong and you know you're wrong and you don't tell the truth, well, then you're a fool. You're missing out on an opportunity for you to be strong, for you to show that you're strong.
Also, if you want to have more self-love, check out my 254 series. It's free. The link to join is in the description below.
It's good to treat other people the way you would like to be treated yourself. It's like a golden rule, and there's a reason for it. And that reason is that we're connected.
Rule number 5, learn to communicate better.
One of the most surprising things about doing this podcast is I learned how to talk to people better. Yeah. I didn't think that was a thing. I thought I just was talking to people. Yeah. But then I realized somewhere along the way, not only are people listening, but sometimes I'm annoying. Okay, like, how do I do this where I'm less annoying? And in learning how to do things that are less annoying, I've become a more compassionate conversationalist. I understand how to talk to people better. Yeah. And I've gotten, I apply it to my whole life now. I've gotten better at it, and I see people who are bad at it. It's so frustrating. Like, I have some really smart friends, and, you know, I'll talk to them and they just interrupt each other, and they interrupt you, and they don't let anybody talk. They're not listening. They're just waiting for their time to talk. And it's so strange. They're not able to ever consider other people's opinions. They think that everyone but them is wrong. Yeah. And it's, you know, it's basically like, you know how it is when you see a YouTube video where people have no idea how to fight and you see them fight? You know that thing? Of course I do. That is so crazy. To this day, I'm like, I've been doing martial arts my whole life. I don't want to fight anybody, but I see people fight and they have no idea how to fight. I'm like, I imagine myself if I was in a street fight with this guy. I'm like, I would be like, why are you doing this, man? Yeah. This is so crazy. You don't know what you're doing. Hey, you're crazy. You're going to get killed. You're lucky I'm nice. But that's the same way with conversation. There's a lot of people out there having conversations, have no idea how to talk. They're not even really listening to you. Yeah. They're just so, and I'm like, why are you doing that? Why are you arguing? You're in a conversation. You don't even know how to have one. Yeah. You're not listening. Yeah. You're just talking. You're just using someone like a wall that you're throwing a tennis ball off of. It's bizarre.
Rule number 6, seek difficult tasks.
If you look at someone who's doing really well, like say if you focus on like Kevin Hart or someone like that, some very famous and successful comedian, all you see is him now flying around private jets, wearing a new pair of sneakers every day, driving around in Bentleys. You just see that. You don't see him being a young kid in Philadelphia going to open mic nights. There's a progression that you're not witness to. You don't see it. And that takes place in everything. It takes place in authors. It takes place in comedians and musicians. There is a starting point, and then with time and focus, and as long as you reevaluate and reassess and constantly objectively look at what you're doing and then pursue it with passion and focus, you get better at things. There's always going to be people that are luckier than you. Some of it is luck, and some of it is courage. Some of it is putting your ass out there. Some of it is trying things. One of the things that I always like to tell people that I think you should do is do shit that's difficult. It's very important to struggle. We have been fed this line of horse that you're supposed to seek comfort, and I don't think you are. I think you're supposed to seek lessons, and you're supposed to seek difficult tasks and accomplishments, and through those things and through doing things that are hard to do, even if it's just a 90-minute hot yoga class. This life doesn't have enough of that. There's not enough struggle. You don't get to know yourself without struggle. You don't get to know your boundaries unless you push them. You don't get to know who you are really unless you're tested.
Rule number 7, don't pursue high scores.
I think of money as something that's entangled into life. Like there's great aspects to what you can do with your money, but it's entangled into your life in a weird way. There's what you currently can do, right? Based on your circumstances, based on your life, your health, your responsibilities. There's what you can do, and there's what's humanly possible for you to do. Mm-hmm. And when you see people that are making a lot of money, and you see that money starts you thinking that that's what you should do. Yeah. You should do that money thing, whatever that money is. No. I used to make less money. Now I make more money, and that makes more money than even I make. I got to do what that is to get more money. But then you do that, you realize, oh, but this isn't fun. Yeah. Now most of my day is spent doing something that's not enjoyable. Mm-hmm. That's not what I want to do. Mm-hmm. So then it's what you want to do, what you can do, what's possible, and what you want to do. Mm-hmm. And they don't always go together. Sometimes what you can do is like you have too much responsibilities, and you're always going to feel short-sighted by life because it's random and it's crazy and it's chaos. But the money thing can trick you. Like if you have a certain amount of money in the bank, like Brian Callen said it best to me. He's like, once you go to a restaurant and you don't worry about what food costs, he goes, everything else is bullshit. I was like, dude, you're right. Yeah, because that's when you're free, right? When you know your rent is paid, you know your gas is paid, your car payment's paid. You're not worried about it at all. You can just go eat. Let's go eat. You don't care. You leave a nice fat tip. Thank you. Good night. Bye. That's when you're rich. Right. Everything other than that is like, what are you doing? Like you just trying to score points? Because that's what we're doing. We're trying to get the high score. Everybody wants to get the high score. That high score. Like you're in there playing Centipede all day. Like you
What's Centipede?
I never thought about it like that.
Old school arcade game. It was come down like this. You shoot at them. Pew, 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 pew. It's Pong era, like just past Pong. It's super old school dork shit.
That's funny.
But that's what it's like.
Rule number 8, keep improving yourself daily. When
I was a kid, I always looked at normal people living normal lives. I could never relate. I never understood it. You know, I also grew up from a broken home, and we were also on welfare, and the whole deal. Mm-hmm. Because I think a lot of motivated people come from a place of despair when they're younger. Yeah. And I always had this thought in my head that one day I would make it. Yeah. One day I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it. And then one day I realized, and I don't know when I realized it. Probably when, like, on paper, I'd already made it. Yeah. I realized, oh, there's no such place. Like, this is not real. Like, you can't ever, you don't make it. No one makes it. Yeah. Like, every day, you have to be trying to do better. Every day, you have to be trying. First of all, there's no perfect human. Let's accept that. You're always going to be flawed. You're always going to be subject to fits of rage and envy and all the things that you wish that you would never have in your mind. So you've got to constantly be working to make sure that never happens.
Rule number 9, exercise.
Let's say that I feel like, you know what, society says everything's great.
I'm unhappy.
Exercise.
Financially, okay,
Exercise.
why is exercise the one?
Because you get your blood pumping.
Right.
You release natural endorphins and you legitimately feel better. And I also think of this all the time. I think of your body as almost like the energy in your body is like a battery, and it requires a certain amount of use. And when you don't use it, it overflows. And then you get weird behavior and overreacting to things, and you almost like get antsy. You got to get up and move.
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is own your mistakes.
I've made a lot of mistakes. I make them all the time. I'm a dummy. All right, like I do my best, but ultimately at the end of the day, there's a lot of dummy in me, and I do my best. But if I make a mistake, I will own the shit out of that mistake. If you talk to me about it and you want to have a discussion about it, I'm not one of those people that I don't think there's any value in pretending you didn't make a mistake. I think there's a real
societal.
But I think we're wrong about that
misconception.
But it's they don't know. The people that did it didn't understand. The rules that were written by people who really hadn't had a good grasp of the territory yet. They didn't really understand what they were saying. They should have taught people that in school. They should have taught people like that in junior high school for sure. They should have said your failures, those feelings that you feel. Like they teach you about history and math, and those things are great. There's nothing wrong with that. But they should have taught us about how your failures are a very valuable fuel.
Yeah.
That feeling that you get when a girl dumps you, or that feeling that you get when you crash your car, or that feeling that you get when you ruin something, you say something wrong, when something comes out of your mouth, when anything you do wrong, you flunk out of a class, whatever the fuck it is, that negative feeling is a boost. It's supposed to take you into the next orbit. It's supposed to blast you into the next level of understanding what you were doing wrong and how to improve in your life and how to go forward with better habits. And if you don't experience that pain, that feeling, that embarrassment, then you don't really know how valuable it is to stay on your grind.
Now I've got a special bonus clip from Joe on how to manage your life correctly that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, it's time for the 3-point landing questions. Let's go from just watching a video to taking action. Here we go. Question number 1. What's the mistake you made that you need to own? Number 2, how can you improve yourself today? And number 3, where do you need to stop being lazy? And if you made it this far in a video and you commit that you're gonna take action, we don't just watch videos here, we do something, give me a hashtag believe down in the comments below, because I want to celebrate you.
I don't think we know how to manage our life correctly, and life doesn't come with a guidebook. It doesn't come with, when you're in this condition, seek out these remedies. Start exercising, get together with your friends, tell them you love them, meet up and have dinner and hug each other.
Sleep well,
drink water. There's
and whiskey.
A little bit of whiskey too, right? And also, so many of us have a bad head start. Like you're starting off, like how about your dad? He been growing up, getting kicked out of the family.
Yeah.
And then starts a family of his own where you don't even know your grandfather. It's madness, right? Madness. So you're coming out of this stressful pocket, or maybe your dad goes to jail, or maybe your mom dies when you're young. All these things that happen to people where they have this bad start, right? And then they develop defense mechanisms to deal with all their insecurities, and they get around similar-minded people, and you curse the world and everybody and the police and this, and then you get in these communities of people that think the same way. And then maybe there's gangs, and maybe there's drugs, and maybe there's crime and despair and sadness, and maybe just negative people. Maybe there's none of the above. Maybe there's no danger. It's just annoying. Every day people complaining about shit. And you're stuck in the mud of humanity with people. It's real hard to engineer 350 million people out of that. But for yourself, you can take actions to make your life better. And if everybody did that, if everybody took actions to make their life a happier experience by doing those things, by exercising, eating well, hugging friends, and enhancing community, just trying to be nicer to people.
If you want 10 more amazing rules from Joe Rogan, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
You have to have real rigid requirements of yourself where you don't allow yourself to back out of things, and you don't allow yourself to slack off.